Hi guys, if you are seeing my face for the first time, this is Safaya Adeze. On this program, I talk about health and well-being, politics of great concern, and weekly declaration. So today, I just want to quickly make this video. As you can see, I'm just trying to, quickly rush this and address because I was going around the social media and I came across something about people talking about the wider test. There's something they call wider test. Those of you who don't know, it's a kind of test people believed they use it to diagnose typhoid fever. But actually, wider test, I want to correct it today, it's not a real diagnosis of wider test knowing if somebody, it's not a real diagnosis of knowing if someone have got typhoid. Wider test is not an accurate diagnosis of typhoid test. Let me correct this, because in Africa and some other developing country, they believe that wider tests, once they do wider tests, they say, oh, I have typhoid, they start taking antibiotics, taking so many medications, which is really wrong. If you're thinking that you have typhoid in your system, the best test you need to do is blood culture. We call it blood culture. You take the blood, the phlebotomist take blood from you, or your doctor take blood from you and run a blood culture for you. That's the right diagnosis for typhoid test. Not going into a lab and say, do wider test for me. And what wider test does is, wider test can identify what they call it. Let me use the simplest way to describe it. If I walk through this corridor now and I leave a footprint, I walk through a corridor and I leave a footprint, that doesn't mean that I'm there. Yes, that doesn't mean I'm there. I may have walked through there and gone to somewhere else, but my footprint that is left on the floor doesn't signify that I am there. That is what wider test does. Let me do another example, like the COVID time. The COVID period, some of us who are in the medical environment, in the health sector, we were exposed. We came in contact with people who had COVID. But because our immune system was strong, we got contact of it. The COVID entered into us. The immune system fought the COVID, digested it, and something called antibody. Something called yes. When the body fights this this COVID, it will leave a trace called the antibody. They'll say, when they test, they'll say, oh, they found a COVID antibody in you. They found it in you because it has come through your system. It got contact with you, but it's no longer there. It left a footprint. It left a trace. It doesn't mean you have it. It doesn't mean I have the COVID. It left a footprint. Like me during the COVID, when I want to go back to my actual department, it left a footprint. It doesn't mean I have COVID. The COVID came to me, my body fought it, my body digested it, and let me use the language, and conquered the COVID. So it left a footprint. So when you do that test, you find COVID antibody. Doesn't mean you have the COVID. So that is the same way the wider test does. Somebody may have been exposed to typhoid in the past, and they do a test. They will find traces of the fragment of the typhoid in them. That does not give the final diagnosis. When you find a trace, the trace can only trigger you to go and check if the typhoid is still there or it has gone. That is when you do the blood culture. Don't run down to start using any form of antibiotics. Otherwise, you will develop what we call antibiotics resistance. When you start using antibiotics unjustly, you develop antibiotics resistance. And when people develop multiple antibiotic resistance, it becomes a problem for them in the future. Because when you are infected with a particular bacteria or a bacterial infection and they start trying to treat you, those antibiotics will not work again because your body have developed resistance. So typhoid bacteria is detected through blood culture. Yes. So it's detected through blood culture. So don't indulge in using different kind of antibiotics because you did a wider test and the wider test said, yes, they saw a trace of typhoid. So please, I want to correct this. A lot of people in Africa, they are abusing antibiotics. And they go to this quack. Be aware of quack. They go to this quack and report it, and they do it, and they start selling medication to them. These people are just there to sell their medicine. They don't care what happened to your system. They don't care. So please, I know it can be financially constraining to go to hospital and be doing multiple tests, but it is safer. It saves you, it saves your system. You might look at it as you are spending more, but it is safe for you to do the blood culture. Don't just say you did a wider test and the wider test said you saw something that looked like typhoid and you start taking typhoid medication. No, wider test is not an accurate test for typhoid confirmation. Go for blood culture. Okay, yes, go for blood culture. And yes, and when you have typhoid, you may have some symptoms of headache. And again, headache is not only a sign of typhoid. Headache might be a sign of stress. Yes, you may be having stomach pain, which also comes with typhoid, but stomach pain may be a sign that you have eaten contaminated food. So these things can be happening at the same time, making you actually believe that you have typhoid. No, until you do a blood culture, do not agree that you have typhoid. Okay, so you don't bombard your system with dangerous antibiotics and leave you helpless.